We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
I had a dream today that I wanted to share. Possibly I'll make a video of this, but for the past 4 years that I've been doing my videos about little Umran Daknish, I had a dream today where I was living with his family in Aleppo, and the assumption was that it's been like maybe 2 years. And in the process of this, I more or less was there just to kind of to get to know him, to help him if I could there in the home with his sisters and his brother and his parents. And the premise became that the real reason I was there was not so much also of just getting to know him, but that I've always had a desire that I might one day be able to ask if he would let me hug him. And I didn't have very much of any people there who knew English, and I guess that's one reason why all I could do was just try to interact with them and be there for them if they needed something. And then one day there was an occasion where this woman showed up who I thought she was probably an acquaintance that they knew there in Aleppo, but she appeared to be English. She was American, or I thought she was American. And then the first thing I thought was maybe she's actually a reporter. Maybe they were doing some follow-up, interview. And I asked her, I said, "Do you know Arabic at all? Can you speak it?" And she said, "Yeah, I know a few words." And so I asked her, I said, "Well, could you do me a favor and ask Umran if I could hug him?" And then more or less the story changed from that point, and I had other things that I had to do around the house to help them out. And in a couple of minutes or so after I started to do these tasks, I turned around and there was Umran standing there, and he had his hands outstretched, and he grabbed me and hugged me. And I hugged him real tight, because that was sort of like, for me, my greatest hope, my greatest desire was to try to reach out to him and to hug him. I kept hoping maybe one day I might meet him and I'd have that chance to embrace him, to hug him, just to say, people love you, Umran, not just me, but millions of other people around the world. And that's what my hope was, to hug him and to project all of our love for him in one big grasp, one embrace, and so I had that experience in my dream, and the first thing that I thought of after that was kind of a letdown, like I've accomplished what I really hoped to do in meeting Umran. And then the first thing I thought of was, this means I got to leave. I got to go back to, I got to return to the United States, because now I guess that could have maybe been the ultimate task of why I sought him out, was to get to know him, to be friends, but then also that ultimate task was to reach out and hug him if he would let me. And up until then, I didn't know how to communicate with him. So that happened. And before I woke up, I had the impression that I was starting to pack up everything that I had brought with me. And then I guess I did come back to the States, but it never got that far. I woke up. And so there I am in bed, and I'm thinking, I had this really deep sense of just grief, or just, regret that maybe that's what I was hoping for in sharing my videos, was one day I'd have that chance to hug him and then it would be over, and you felt like, was there any other purpose behind sharing my feelings? And of course, my answer is now, yes, there are hundreds, millions of reasons I did the videos and still do the videos for Amran, because I love him and I'll never change that feeling that I have for him. And more importantly, love is what makes the world go round. It's what drives people to keep going, to make things and do things. And that's why for me, if I never meet Amran in my life, if I never get that chance to hug him, my desire is that I could reach out to him through other ways. Someday maybe I would have the chance to meet somebody that knows Amran. Maybe he lives, or they live right near him, and they could go to his house and hug him and maybe video that embrace, and they might share it with the world. And then in itself, that could be an accomplishment, of me getting the chance to see somebody hug him and know that it's not me doing it, but it's somebody else, who had that opportunity. And beyond this dream, I wanted to share this really in the last couple of years since it happened. I know a lot of people in my church that have families, and we do Bible studies on Sunday evenings. And there was this one time I had a chance to meet this family that had a small daughter. She was like 4 years old. And she liked me, and I squeezed her hand. I grasped her hand, I squeezed it, and I thought at that moment, oh, if this could have been Omran's hand that I was reaching out to, who I was grasping in my hand. I've always wished that somehow Amran might have felt that squeeze of her hand at that moment in time, that he got that like telepathic message from me, and that he felt his own hand being squeezed. I thought I'd share that in this video because that's kind of why, for me, that's something that is very personal. I had that one chance to squeeze a child's hand who normally I never get a chance to be around really small children. And when I squeezed that girl's hand, that child's hand, I just thought, oh, if this somehow could reach your hand right at that moment, Amran, I wish I could say that to you. That we love you, we care about you. That's what I would have wanted to say to him if he had been there. I would say, Amran, I and millions of other people love you, and our love stretches beyond the borders of countries, beyond the borders of an ocean that separates us. Love is just beyond comprehension for how people feel about each other, that it doesn't have to be concern for somebody that's right next door to you, or somebody in the next state, or in the next city, or whatever. It's to me, it's universal. It's everywhere. You can express yourself to people anywhere in the world. And in my case, the only way I know to reach out to Amran is through these visuals, these videos that I make, because I know I'll probably never meet him in person. But that dream today kind of hit my gut. I thought, I do all the videos, and I try as much as I can to express my feelings about him in those videos, but it's not like the instances where you have dreams, and they're very personal, and they hit you right in the heart. And when I had it today, I thought, I've got to put this down on an audio track. I've got to get this down so that people can hear what happened when I was, there, when I saw him. How was it? And I'm happy I did it, because I'll try to share this in some future video about, other experiences I've had, or, before I end this, let me say one other video. I'm sure I've done this and already shared it, but that year that everybody saw Amran in 2017 is a year after the attacks in Aleppo. His father went public with Amran's experience, and they gave everybody a chance to see what he looks like after the injuries and everything. And that night I prayed about Amran. I asked God, if there's any way you could help me reach out to him, to communicate with him, I'd so much appreciate it. And while I was in bed and I was about to fall asleep, I hadn't fallen asleep yet. I was still awake. I had a visual impression to come up in my eyesight, and I saw two different places at the same time. They were visualizations of like these small windows. One window showed a scene of a street, and that it's sort of like you were looking out this window of where children were playing on an average street in Aleppo, because I saw this particular place in a story that they did about Omran's home. And the other was a picture of the window of the apartment where you see the curtains behind them in the apartment all the time. Well, I saw these things before really the first interviews were done in June of 2017. I had this visual impression maybe a couple of months before. And when I saw this happening, I thought, these must be the places where Omran lives. This is the street where he lives. This is his house, his home. Because I don't see these things all the time. I've had some visual visions of things, but never to the level of seeing two different things at the same time. And I still contend of that experience. God answered my prayer. He allowed me to see the place where Omran lives in Aleppo. He was saying, this is how Omran lives every day. This is where he lives. And though I couldn't communicate through these visions, I at least had the chance to observe these places. And that's the only other experience I've had about Omran that I could relate to, is something that I had an experience of being there where he was. And then also there was another dream. I think it was probably a day or so even before that. I dreamed that I went to his house and I met his father. And I've shared this in another video, I know, because I can remember describing this. But this is about the time probably that Omran was at full recovery. He was still not quite 4 years old. And in my dream, I held his hands and walked him on my feet. He would stand on my feet, and I was walking and just kind of walking him back and forth, kind of like saying, I love you, Omran. I'm here for you. I'm trying to interact with you or react with you. And his father was real happy about that one experience. And finally he told me, he said, well, we have to go now. So, I just felt how lucky I was that I had some interaction with Omran after everybody had seen him hurt in the ambulance, and that I had that chance to play with him in a way, even though, okay, it's a dream, it's probably not real, but still, that's what I remember about it. But those are very personal reflections of things that I have experienced since I saw that first night in August of 2016 when Omran was hurt and he was in the ambulance. These are the only other visions I've had. This is the most recent dream I've had, where that feeling I have always felt for him, having asking God, please let me be able to one day hug him, maybe. And so when it happened today, I thought, I'm not going to let this day go by that I don't at least put it down audio. But anyway, we're talking December 2nd, 2020, and that's a Wednesday afternoon. I had the dream sometime between 5 o'clock and 7 tonight. And I will never forget it, just like I won't ever forget those other dreams. Because whenever I have the chance to experience any communication or contact or telepathy through Omran with him about something, I want to write it down, or I want to try to put it down in a way that I can go back and I can use it again later. So thank you for this chance again to share another experience I've had of seeing Amran in a other than direct contact with him. This is through a mental telepathic contact, I think, through him, through God. God allowed me that chance to see Amran again. And I just pray maybe these contacts, maybe he did sense those contacts from me. Maybe he did actually see them or feel them. But thanks for letting me share, and maybe other people who love him as much as me will share their own experiences in the future. Thank you.